So in this video, we are gonna look over some distance and time graphs. Let's begin. So we have Mr. Mellow Yellow over here, and he decides to walk to the corner store, which is less than a mile away. So I guess Mellow Yellow is a she. I take it back. So she got about halfway there and stopped for rest, stopped to rest a while, and then started walking again, but faster than before to make up for lost time. So we are going to play the story. So Mellow Yellow is walking and then stops right here, as you can see, and notice, and then speeds up to get to the corner store because of lost time. So you'll notice that time is going to pass. So time keeps moving. And when they stop, notice it's a flat line. It's not just like you stop the line. The line is flat because the distance is not increasing. So at around 0.4 miles, the distance stops. So Mellow Yellow stops after walking about 0.4 miles. And then how long does Mellow Yellow stop for? Well, between 5 and 10 minutes, really. If you look at this, so stops between 5 and 10 minutes, does nothing. So notice time continues to move, but then the distance does not increase. And then in the last section, Mellow Yellow, after 10 minutes, Mellow Yellow speeds up to get to the corner store. Let's take a look at story 2. In story 2, Mellow Yellow starts walking to the corner store, turns around halfway when she realized that she had dropped her hat. She goes back to her hat to get it, stops to catch her breath, and then ran all the way to the corner store. So let's start. So Mellow Yellow goes, and at what point does Mellow Yellow realize that Mellow Yellow drops her hat? Well, after walking about 0.5. Now, what does it look like when you go backwards? It doesn't mean you go backwards this way to the left, because that means you're going back in time. It means your distance is decreasing. So if your starting point is 0 and you went up to 0.5 miles, if your hat is like, I don't know, at like halfway there, was at like 0.2 miles or 0.25 miles, you have to return there. So your distance starts going down, because your distance from home, you're going closer to your home, right? You're going closer to your starting home. So if this is Mellow Yellow's home, the bottom, she's moving farther away toward the corner store, but she drops her hat, which is some ways back. So she's actually kind of going closer to her home, right? To go get her hat. So she goes, she runs back, and then she stops, catch her breath, and then speeds off. Notice this line is much steeper than this line. What does that mean? It means she's running faster. When the line is steeper, that means Mellow Yellow is going faster. If it's less steep, it means she's going slower. If it's flat, it means she's not moving at all. Time is going still. Time is still passing, but then Mellow Yellow is not moving at all. And how long did she stop for? Can we tell? Well, if we look at this, maybe about 2 minutes, maybe a little bit less than 2 minutes. Let's take a look at number 3. Let's see. Does the graph match the story? If not, change it or change the story. So Mellow Yellow ran toward the corner store as quickly as possible, but had to stop and rest about halfway there because she was out of breath. Then she ended up walking for the last part. So she's running to the corner store as quickly as possible, but had to stop and rest. So stopping and resting means this is a stopping and resting, right? And then but that's not stopping and resting. This means she's going back. She's moving because the distance is returning to her home. So this is what this means. It's like Mellow Yellow is going back to the home. So that's not correct. So you would either have to say Mellow Yellow had to go back to, pick up her hat or something, and then goes back to the corner store. No. To say that she stopped to rest about halfway. So halfway is about half a mile, which is right there. So we would have to change this graph to look like this. So rested. There you go. It's flat right there. And then she walked fast for the last part. Walking fast. Well, if you want to walk fast, you want to make sure the graph is more steep, but you don't want it to be too steep because this would be like a super fast sprint, but steeper than the beginning. Or I guess she ran, so this should be the fastest. And I guess this should be less steep, so she's walking fast, I suppose. But the walking fast, I guess we need to get to the corner store, so like at the 1 mile mark, right over there. So it should look something like this, I suppose. Uh, so that's so let's fit the story. Drag points 1 and 2 to make the graph match the story. Okay, Mellow Yellow Mellow Yellow walked very slowly toward the corner store. All right, is this very slowly? Walked half a mile in, or like more than half a mile in like 3 minutes? No, very slowly means like really slowly, like walked half a mile, like in like 10 minutes, I suppose. Very slowly toward the corner store. She stopped at a bench down the street for a rest. So what does it look like when she stops? It means the line should be flat, not going down, but flat. And then ran the rest of the way to the corner store. What should that look like? Well, it should be, I guess you get that. Pretty steep, but, let's flatten it like that. And then she ran. So the line should be steeper than at the very beginning. And I think that's it. And that's it. We got some other stories we can do. Let's go ahead and write a story. Can I write a story? I don't know if I can write a story. Oh, here we go. I can write a story. So, Mellow Yellow starts off by walks a quarter mile. M-Y, Mellow Yellow, walks for about a minute and a half, right? Walks a minute and a half. And then what happens to that line? Does it get steeper or less steep? And then speeds up. How long does Mellow Yellow speed up for? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, until about the 3-minute mark. The 3-minute mark. Then realizes she has to go back and pick up her hat, where did her hat fall? Her hat fell, I don't know, at a 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. So this is like 0.1 mile. Her hat, which fell off her head a while back. So she walks back and then immediately walks back. So she walks back to grab her hat. Then immediately after she walks back to grab her hat, does she run back? Does she go slowly? No, it looks like she's going pretty quickly, pretty speedy. Immediately runs off back to the corner store. That would be this story. And that's about it. That is reading different graphs. So something to keep in mind, the speed is how you could determine speed by looking at how steep the line is. So if you have a very steep line, like come on, yeah. Oh, you know what the issue is? I have this on. There, I need the arrows. So if you have a very steep slope like this, that means you're going really quick. If your slope is like, if your thing is not so steep, then it means you're going slowly. And if it's flat, completely flat like this, that means you've stopped. Now, time moves forward even as you stop, but your distance does not change. Notice if you go half a mile and then you stop, that means you run, you stop at half a mile. If you go backwards, that means it's going back down. If you go back to the corner store, speeding up really steep, that means you're moving at a quick rate. Go ahead and try to answer some graph questions on your own. Good luck.